Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to show off some finds that I found and talk about some books that are interesting to me and maybe to other people, and just to see what kind of deals one can find when they go out and explore. Here is a book. It's about Captain Sir Richard Francis Burden. He is a secret agent who made the pilgrimage to Mecca and discovered the Kama Sutra and brought the Arabian Nights to the West. So that's quite a title there. Kind of an interesting book. And so it's talking about his life, so forth. A lot of these big explorers, like Arthur Waley and so forth, or Stephen Runciman to a certain extent, would continue this long tradition of British archaeologists, explorers, adventurers to examine the East. Okay, this is a pretty cool book. It's The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. It's clearly a movie version with Humphrey Bogart on the front of it. It's pretty cool. So, next, let's see. This book is just a Prager's art book about the Impressionists. It's kind of interesting because it just covers like all that the movement of the time period, which I don't know, based off of YouTube's terms of services, I don't know if I can show off some of the artwork because of the nudity, but yeah, it's just kind of interesting stuff. Okay, this one is interesting. It's by Alfred North Whitehead, who worked with Bertrand Russell, and I believe it was Bertrand Russell, to work on their axiomatization, basically making proofs in analytic philosophy. It's big in this one, so important guy in that sort of movement. Interesting. Let's see. Okay. Peter Matheson, The Snow Leopard, kind of a famous book. He also wrote about books and topics such as the Marsh Arabs and so forth, which apparently they were groups of people who lived in the marshlands of Iraq, but because of climate change and Saddam Hussein's tyranny, a lot of them are wiped out or forcibly moved due to economic reasons of oil extraction and so forth. So this is kind of this author kind of like talks about these things, and this book specifically is about talking about pilgrimage into the Himalayas and so forth. So definitely an author to take a look out for. Okay, next one. This one was interesting. It's Meeting with Japan, and a very nice covering to it. It's not a Tuttle book. It's actually a Viking book, which I'm not exactly sure what this book's about. It's got a very nice look to it, and I guess it talks about some tales. It's kind of like a Frank Dobie kind of perspective, but for Japan. It's got some interesting illustrations of like Meiji period type things and Taisho, even later on Heisei. So pretty cool. Just different stuff and ideas, and it also seems like it's a reflection of her ideas. Marani. So cool. Let's see. This one is a biography of Toulouse-Lautrec, and so it goes over his life and his unfortunate behaviors, so forth. So this goes along with like your sort of impressionist type of time period, late 19th century. Lots of good art books here. This one I believe is part 1, and then part 2. Okay, yeah. So The War for the Revolution by Ward. It's going to be about the American Revolution. Pretty interesting right here. Nice volume set here. Let's see. Let's keep moving on. This one is The Passion Pilgrim, The Life of Vincent van Gogh. So another French interesting artist. He had a very troubled lifestyle as well for some of the cultural references, like him cutting off his own ear for different reasons. This one is Noble Savage, The Life of Paul Gauguin, and I guess it's about him and his questionable lifestyle and his art and so forth. So covers that. Very nice book. This one is a science book. interesting. It's the dramatic effects of cross correlations and random vibrations of discrete systems, beams, plates, and shells. So I am not a expert on this different things. I think it's talking about like fossil records and like shells and so forth. This is a little bit above my head, but it's a Springer, so of course it's going to have some high quality and has a lot of good mathematics into it, and further readings, so forth. Talking about this, like that, kind of an interesting thing. A lot of vector mechanics, differential equations. Okay, next portion. Put this back. This one is about the Canadian Rockies. It's like a personal effect and sort of history and reflection of the people involved in the probably the first national parks in Canada, Parks Canada, Banff, and so forth. And later on, it has a really nice map here, which let me see if I can show. So that's very nice. And it goes on and has different pictures and the explorers and probably some of the gold prospecting that would happen in the Yukon and so forth and the Klondike. Cool. Let's see. The Golden Age of American Anthropology. I haven't read this one, but I'm sure it's going to be about starting off in late 1800s, the Bone Wars, and you're going to progress to eugenics, and then discovering and talking about different tribes and chronologically observing them, I'd imagine. So if you're into that kind of thing, this book looks pretty interesting. Another book here. Americans on Everest, the official account of the ascent led by Norman G. Gierenfurth. Looked really cool. Beautiful book. And I don't know if this is a first edition. Let me see if it is. Just wow, look at that. Illustrations. Beautiful. Let's see. It is a first edition. Wow. That's pretty cool. Yes. Very interesting. This one I thought it was Audubon or another similar publication for Western birds because I've seen them quite a bit. But this one actually is a field guide to birds of East Africa. That's kind of cool. Very interesting. The African Great Lakes regions, so forth. And it was actually apparently from Kenya too, which is neat. It doesn't have a lot of illustration, but it has some. It kind of puts it in the middle. These birds. Very interesting. Very colorful, of course. Okay. Next one, let's see. Beyond the Ural Mountains, the adventures of the Siberian hunter Ivan Aramilev. Let me try that again. Ivan Aramilev. So, nice cover. Kind of reminds me of that one Kurosawa tale about the Siberian native man who worked with the Russian, and then he ends up establishing himself in civilization and not liking it. I don't remember off the top of my head what that was called, but it was kind of a famous movie filmed in the Soviet Union, so it kind of gives me that kind of vibes. I don't think it's the same guy, but it's interesting. This one is Camping by Horace Kephart. This book is clearly from the early 1900s. You can tell by the binding. It's amazing condition. This type of camping. Actually, I'm wrong. Excuse me, 1942. But still, it's very good. It's talking about how to travel in the wilderness and has different ideas of what to do and different weapons and A-frames and so forth. Pretty cool stuff. This one, The Quiet Crisis by Stuart L. Udall. He was the Secretary of Interior, I believe, under John F. Kennedy. And so kind of pushing for the national park and expanding it in the 1960s. And this is one of his accounts, supposedly. So, and just talks about different things. Pretty cool, actually, if you're into the national park system or just the different parks. So forth. And yeah, so Mr. Udall, yep. Interesting. This one also go back to what I was talking about, the marsh Arabs and the snow leopard. This is On the River Styx. This is a collection of essays. I imagine is along that sort of adventure type of mystique. This one is interesting. Brighter Than the Thousand Suns by Robert Jung. And I believe he was one of the scientists in the Manhattan Project. So that's pretty cool. You know, it's pretty good condition. Let's see if it's. It is the first American edition. So, very nice. Okay, we'll move on to Descent of Everest by John Hunt. So this is pretty cool. This was printed in the United Kingdom, and it's a first edition, I believe. It does have a book plate from the previous owner, but as you can see, very interesting. This is reset. So this was published in 1955, and it has different pictures from Everest and so forth. So very interesting. Let's see, another camping book, The Outdoor Life, the Complete Book of Camping by Leonard Miracle with Maurice Decker. And just kind of the same type of idea, that sort of, you know, mid-century aesthetic idea. This one is actually set, and it's by Arthur M. Schlesinger Jr., and it's basically American history, and he was a liberal historian, so he believed in more progressive ideas and so forth. And he was going to have arguments about, expanding the Constitution, Bill of Rights, expanding, different ideas of interpretation of the Constitution, and interpreting how minorities and different groups of people would fulfill into the America's role as an emerging superpower. So, of course, this is going to talk about things. The last book of this, The Politics of Upheaval, whereas the first one is The Crisis of the Old Order, talking about the challenge, the rise of the middle class, and then, of course, we get on to FDR and so forth. So these won the Bancroft Prize, which, for anybody who doesn't know, is a very notable prize in history. So very interesting. All right, I don't want to keep this video too long, so thank you for watching. If you're interested in any of these titles, please message me or leave a comment or visit my store. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.